Act as if. That is the key. To live in the end not of what might be, but of what already is. For the secret is not in striving, nor in begging, but in assuming. And when you assume the state of the one you desire to be, you give life to that form within. You breathe reality into what the world may still call a dream. But you know it is more real than all appearances. You do not become, you remember, you reveal, you unfold. Destiny is not ahead of you, it is within you, buried like a seed, waiting for recognition, not time. You become what you've always been, not by chasing, but by awakening. And how do you awaken? You wear the feeling. You walk in the rhythm of the fulfilled desire. You speak not as the one seeking, but as the one who has already received. Your senses may lie, but your imagination tells the truth. It whispers to you in stillness, showing you glimpses of the life that has always belonged to you. It is yours now, but it must be claimed, not with effort, but with assumption. Do not wait for the world to change. You change within. Walk through your day as the version of yourself who has already crossed the threshold. Do not look to the mirror for confirmation. The mirror only reflects. It does not originate. Feel it, real. Not tomorrow, not someday, now. Assume the tone of the accomplished. Let the inner speech declare it so. Let your thoughts align with the truth you've chosen to embody. The world will follow. It has no choice. For all things follow the imagination. Reality bends to the inner command. You are not creating something foreign. You are calling forth what has always belonged to you. The moment you accept it within, the outer must yield. Life organizes itself around your conviction. The world is plastic to your inner word. Not a single thing can remain as it was once you have shifted within. So dwell in the state of the fulfilled. Occupy it. Rest in it. Think from it. And let that be your only truth. No matter what comes to challenge it, you persist in the assumption. You live from the end, and the end lives in you. You are no longer becoming, you are being. And in being, you awaken to the knowing. This is what I've always been. You do not need to wait for a sign. The only sign is your inner acceptance. The outer world is only ever echo, shadow, reflection. The cause is always invisible. The cause is always within. So the moment you shift in consciousness, the moment you dare to feed it is done. You set in motion the pattern. You strike the match. The fire begins with a flicker, an unseen spark deep in the chambers of your being, and suddenly, without strain, the whole forest of your reality begins to burn with the proof of what you have accepted in silence. Do not be fooled by delay. Delay is not denial. Delay is gestation. A seed must take root before it breaks ground. And while the world tells you nothing is happening, everything is happening. Every thought you consistently hold, every inner word you repeat, every assumption you dwell in, it is working. Not because you begged, not because you performed for it, but because you believed. Because you entered the state. States are the only reality. You do not have to fix the world. You do not have to fix yourself. You only have to move from one state to another, from lack to fulfillment, from longing to knowing, from hoping to being. And the way you move is simple. Through feeling, through assumption, through inner conviction. You act as if. You wear the mask of your fulfilled self, and the mask fuses to your skin. It becomes you, and you become what you have always been destined to be. Destiny is not fate. Fate is passive. Destiny is divine remembrance. It is the soul's agreement with the eternal pattern. You are not here to figure it out. You are here to recall, to awaken, to rise up in the consciousness of who you really are. And who you really are is not small. You are not fragile, you are not behind, you are not late, you are not less than. You are the I am clothed in form, you are the creator clothed in circumstance. And every time you claim I am and follow it with a state, you set the course of your experience. Say, I am wealthy, not because the bank account proves it, but because you know the state creates the proof. Say, I am chosen, not because others have said it, but because you have decided it. You do not need permission. You need awareness. And you do not fall into this way of being by accident. No one does. You are drawn to it by something deeper in you, a memory of truth that no experience could erase. Even when you forgot your power, you were never powerless. Even when you lived in fear, the authority within you waited patiently to be called. And now you call it. Live in the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Not once, not as a ritual, not as a performance, but as a way of being. Breathe from it, move from it, respond from it. Do not try to control others. Do not try to change outer things. It is not your job to force anything into place. It is your privilege to assume it already is. The outer world is not your master, it is your mirror. So what do you want it to reflect? If you want to be love, assume you are. Not later, now. If you want success, carry yourself in the posture of one who already knows the outcome is secure. If you want healing, feel the rhythm of wholeness pulsing through your body and live as though the old story never belonged to you. The mind will argue, the senses will accuse, the facts may screen their case, that you do not negotiate with the former self. You do not argue with appearances. You persist. The persistence is not resistance. It is resting in the truth. It is choosing again and again to dwell in the end. It is refusing to abandon the vision. And when you do this, not once, but as a natural rhythm of life, you change. And when you change, everything follows. You have lived long enough thinking from the outside in. Now is the time to live from the inside out. You are not a product of circumstance. You are the source. You are the cause. And the moment you accept this, the moment you stop looking for someone to save you or something to prove it, the power rushes in, the awareness swells, the illusion collapses. You don't become worthy. You are worthy. You don't become powerful, you are powerful. You don't become chosen, you have always been chosen. You don't need the evidence first, you are the evidence. The way you walk, the way you speak, the way you carry yourself, let that be the proof. So act as if. Not to pretend, not to deceive, but to reveal. Because the moment you do, you'll see it was never a lie. It was always true. Your faith doesn't make it true. It recognizes the truth. The truth that has no beginning, no end, and no rival. The truth of your divine identity, your sacred pattern, your perfect place in the design of all things. No one can live it for you. No one can give it to you. It must rise from you. And it does the moment you stop waiting, the moment you stop seeking, the moment you dare to say, this is who I am. And then to live accordingly, not just when it's easy, not just when it's logical, but especially when the senses deny it, because the senses are slow. The senses follow the spirit. You must not return to the old self for comfort. That self was built from fear. That self was designed for survival. But you are not here to survive. You are here to expand, to express, to become visible in the full light of your becoming. The world doesn't need your modesty. The world needs your boldness, your authenticity, your unwavering alignment with the greater self. Every time you doubt, come back to the feeling, not the wishful feeling, but the assured one, the feeling of it is done. Not it will be, not I hope it comes, but this is mine, this is me, this is now. And when you walk in that truth, the details arrange themselves, the steps appear, the path unfolds. What seemed impossible becomes effortless, not because you change the world, but because you change the one experiencing it. You will be tempted to return to effort, to push, to prove. But that is the way of the world. The way of the soul is assumption, is inner stillness, is confidence without noise. Do not try to convince anyone, simply live the truth. Let the fruit speak for the tree. Let the transformation speak for itself. You may not see the shift immediately, but the moment you enter the state, the work is done. The mold is set, the seed is planted, and nothing can stop its growth except your doubt. So do not feed doubt, starve it. Feed the vision, water the dream. Sit with the feeling until it becomes more real than the facts, because it is. And it always has been. You do not need to fix the past. You do not need to make up for lost time. You only need to occupy the present from the place of fulfillment. When you do that, time bends, circumstance obeys, and all things conspire to mirror your inner knowing. You begin to walk in favor, in flow, in peace, not because things are perfect, but because you are aligned. And alignment is everything. Alignment with your truest self, with your highest assumption, with the frequency of the fulfilled desire. From there, life becomes simple, not without movement, but without friction. You act, but your action flows from faith, not force. You speak, but your words carry weight because they come from knowing. You move, but only because you are already there, within. You are not practicing this to get somewhere. You are practicing this to remember that you are already there. You are not becoming, you are revealing. And the revelation happens in silence, in stillness, in surrender to the knowing that this is who I am. Oh, when you rise each day, do not rise as the seeker, rise as the one who is already found. When you look in the mirror, do not look for validation. Look with the eyes of completion. Let the inner tone match the outer posture, and let your life become the expression of your inner conviction. This is not about fantasy. This is not about tricking the mind. This is about claiming your divine inheritance. And your inheritance is wholeness. And when the world begins to reflect it, you will smile. Not because you are surprised, but because you knew. You knew all along. And you lived as if. And in doing so, you became what you had always been. You are not waiting for your destiny, you are embodying it. Every breath you take in the state of fulfillment carves new grooves in the unseen. And soon the seen must conform. You do not see it because it has happened. You see it because you believed it before it was visible. This is the law. Not man's law, not logic's law, but the divine law of consciousness. That which you accept within must express itself without. It cannot fail. It cannot be delayed unless you delay the assumption. The question is not, how do I get what I want? The real question is, who am I in relation to it? And the consciousness does not understand that it is so, not for questions. You have been conditioned to believe that you are so not for me, but for this. So much so that it is a different. You cannot receive as the unworthy version of yourself. You cannot receive as the doubtful, waiting, questioning version. What you seek responds to your frequency, your stance, your posture. If you live from the assumption that it is already done, the fulfillment draws near like iron to magnet, not through force, but through natural attraction. The moment you shift inwardly, you change the climate of your soul. And as the inner weather changes, the outer must adapt. You do not beg the sun to rise. You do not push the tide into motion. You trust it, because it is law, it is rhythm. And so it is with the unfolding of your desires. They are not maybes, they are not possibilities, they are certainties, the moment you assume their end. Do not be double-minded. Do not entertain the lesser thought and expect the greater life. Choose this day whom you will serve, the doubt or the dream. You will know you are in the right state not by what surrounds you, but by how you feel. Not the fleeting emotion, but the settled tone of inner certainty. A calm knowing, a relaxed assurance. Not a hide, not a fantasy, but a deep, stable sense that what you have imagined is already yours. That feeling is the evidence of things not seen. That feeling is the bridge to the new. Many ask, but how will it happen? That is not your concern. The how is the business of the unseen intelligence that governs all things. Your only task is to dwell in the state. The path will rise to meet you. The doors will open. The people will appear. The answers will find you. But you must not leave the end. You must not fall back into wondering. Every time you return to the assumption, you realign with the current that carries all fulfillment. You are not lacking resources. You are not missing steps. You are not behind. You are only ever out of sync when you forget the end. So remember, return, reassume, and live from the place that knows it is done. This is not performance. This is not spiritual strain. This is surrender. To live as if it is already yours is not arrogance, it is alignment. You are not here to chase anything, you are here to become aware that it is chasing you as soon as you become the one who has it. The life you want wants you back. The future you crave is pulling you forward. But it can only meet you in the state of being where you are equal to it. Not greater, not lesser, equal. You meet your destiny on the level of your assumption. Speak from it. Walk from it. Feel from it. Imagine your conversations from the place where the desire is already fulfilled. What are you saying after the breakthrough? What are you thinking after the healing? How are you moving after the door opened? That is where your power lies, in that sacred after which lives within your now. Do not be distracted by what is. What is just the echo of old states. What will be shaped by the now you are choosing. So choose well, choose boldly, choose consistently. Let no appearance talk you out of what you've already declared. The old world may still ring with delay, but you do not answer it. You answer only to the vision, to the inner world you've claimed. And you persist, not because you're desperate, but because you're certain. You do not need evidence to maintain belief. Belief itself is the evidence. Your senses have lied to you long enough. They told you you were small. They told you you were stuck. They told you you were forgotten. But your spirit has always known otherwise. That is why you've come to this knowing. That is why you can no longer tolerate living as less. You have tasted the truth, and now you must live it. You must wear it like a garment until it fuses with your skin. And when the new version of you fully emerges, it will not feel like a surprise. It will feel like a homecoming, a recognition. You will say, of course this is who I am. Of course this is my life. I have lived it within too long to call it strange. You won't need to celebrate it with noise. Your very breath will carry the authority of the fulfilled. Your stillness will become your loudest confirmation. Others will wonder how you did it, and you will know it was never a doing, it was a being. A steady, faithful being. An inner choice made again and again until it became your nature. You became familiar with success, familiar with wholeness, familiar with joy. And what you are familiar with, you no longer resist. You do not need to struggle to believe. You only need to repeat the assumption. Let it impress itself into your subconscious like a seal into wax. Let your imagination live with the vision until it no longer feels separate, until it feels inevitable, until it feels like the only reasonable outcome. And when doubt whispers, because it will, you do not engage. You smile gently and return to the state. You remind yourself who you are. You remind yourself what you've claimed. You remind yourself what you've already seen within. The world may offer 100 arguments, but none can stand against your inner conviction. This is your work, to stay true to the state, to nurture it in silence, to protect it from the noise of the outer world, to become so steeped in the feeling that nothing can pull you out, not circumstance, not delay, not criticism. You live in the end, and from that end, all beginnings are born anew. You become what you have always been, not by adding to yourself, but by removing the doubt, the fear, the forgetfulness. You strip away the false identities. You shed the borrowed beliefs. You rise in the memory of your power, your worth, your divine design. You look not at the storm, but at the light within you. And you move forward not blindly, but boldly, because you are not guessing, you are knowing. Act as if it is not a game. It is not wishful play. It is sacred. It is divine rehearsal. It is the blueprint of manifestation. It is the mind entering agreement with the soul. And when mind and soul align, there is nothing that can remain unchanged. Do not underestimate the still, quiet assumption. It is more powerful than 1,000 actions taken from fear. One moment of true inner alignment will do more for your life than years of outer toil. So rest in it, return to it, and trust the process that unfolds from it. You have waited long enough. You have tried it the hard way. Now try it the true way, the simple way, the way of inner certainty. You do not need to wait for the world to give you permission. It is already done. Walk as if, speak as if, love as if, lead as if, create as if, and live as if. Because the truth is, you already are. There is no waiting in consciousness, there is only being. And in being, all that you sought arrives without strain because it has always been yours. Not a future version of you, not an improved, more deserving version. You, as you are, in your now, are already the vessel through which this divine expression flows. What keeps it hidden is only the refusal to dwell in the state that says, I am. I am is not a statement of hope. I am is a decree. It is a command. It is a creative word that shapes everything in its path. When you say, I am free, the chains that once bound you begin to fall, not because you begged them to break, but because freedom recognized your voice and answered. When you say, I am loved, the loneliness must dissolve, not because you demanded it to go, but because love can only live where it is assumed. The world must bow to the inner declaration. And this assumption is not noisy. It does not beg to be believed. It does not scream to be seen. It is quiet, still, immovable. The true assumption lives in silence, not because it is unsure, but because it is certain. Like a mountain, it rests in its own presence. Like the stars, it knows it shines even when the clouds pass by. You are not trying to convince reality, you are becoming it. The moment you become it within, the world has no choice. It may protest, it may delay, but it must yield, it must rearrange, because it cannot withstand the truth you have claimed. The world does not create your identity creates the world you see. Every shift in state is a shift in creation. When you move into the feeling of the fulfilled desire, you have moved into the only space where creation is complete. You are not making it happen. You are witnessing what has always been finished. The blueprint of your becoming is already written. You do not need to design it. You need only to dwell in it, to walk its halls in the unseen, to visit it in the quiet sanctuary of your own soul, until it becomes more real than what the eyes can offer. See, the world cannot give you anything you do not first accept within. If you long for it, but do not assume it, it stays just out of reach. But the moment you drop the longing and pick up the being, it rushes to meet you. Not because the world changed, but because you did. The moment you say, it is mine, and believe it with your whole being, the mirror has no choice but to reflect it back. Imagination is not play, it is power. It is not escape, it is entry. It is the door to all things real. When you imagine yourself as already being, doing, having the life that belongs to you, you are not escaping into fantasy. You are accessing a deeper truth, a higher dimension where the form is already finished and waiting only for you to claim it. Every image, every inner scene, every felt moment, these are the brushstrokes of reality being painted in the invisible realm. And so you return to that inner image again and again, not because you doubt, but because you are saturating your being with the truth. You are forming the mold in consciousness, and soon the world must pour itself into that mold. It cannot resist the shape you've chosen. It cannot hold back what you've already received within. Do not be fooled by appearances. They are echoes. They are shadows of the past self. They are not your prophecy. You owe nothing to the old world. Let it dissolve. Let it fall away. It served its purpose, it brought you here, but now you must turn your gaze toward the unseen, not because you deny reality, but because you understand what reality truly is. The seen is temporary, the felt assumption is eternal. There will come a moment when you no longer ask, when will it happen? That moment will mark your arrival. Because those who dwell in the end no longer concern themselves with time. They are not counting days. They are not checking for signs. They are the sign. They are the manifestation in motion. The feeling of done carries no need for reassurance. It moves with calm, it breathes with ease, and it does not need to prove itself. You may walk the same streets, sit at the same table, face the same routines, but you are no longer the same. You are living from the end, and in doing so you alter everything around you. Subtly at first, then undeniably, circumstances bend, people shift, opportunities you once chased now appear, drawn by the magnetism of your inner stance. You attract not by want, but by identity. You have become the version of yourself that all these things naturally seek. And when they come, you will not be surprised, you will not be overwhelmed, you will not feel unworthy, because you will know they are yours by right of consciousness. They are yours because you became the version of you who could receive them. And you did not become that version by accident. You chose. You assumed. You dared to act as if. To act as if is not pretending. Pretending carries doubt. It hopes, it waits. But acting as if is knowing. It is behaving from the knowing that reality is already shaped in your favor. It is moving as one who has already crossed over. When you act from this place, even in small ways, you align every detail of your life with the outcome you have already claimed. And the more you do this, the less resistance you feel. You begin to relax into the version of yourself you once only visited in imagination. It becomes natural. It becomes effortless. You don't have to remind yourself. You simply are. That is the final shift. When you are no longer trying to believe it, you are it. This is not a moment of arrival. This is a state of being, and you can return to it whenever you choose. It is not something you earn. It is something you claim. And you claim it by assuming it, by feeling it, by living it, not just in meditation, not just in journaling, but in every choice, every thought, every step. Let each moment bear witness to the truth you've chosen. I am already who I was created to be. You may look back and see how long you lived in delay, not because the world withheld from you, but because you withheld the assumption. But do not mourn lost time. In this new state, time is no longer your master. What would have taken years can now take weeks. What once seemed distant now stands near. You collapse time by collapsing doubt. You become timeless when you align with the eternal self who already holds all things. You are not powerless. You are not waiting for conditions. You are not waiting for others to change. You are not waiting for approval. You are not waiting at all. You are becoming. And in your becoming, the world bends. The structure reshapes. The vision that once felt like desire now stands in your hands as reality. But this reality was not granted to you. It was revealed through you. You gave it form by your assumption. You animated it by your inner word. You persisted and the world bowed. You believed and the mountain moved. You walked as if, and the way appeared beneath your feet. That is the way of the one who knows who they are. And this knowing is not fragile. It is not shaken by appearances. It does not waver in the face of facts. It is a knowing that runs deeper than evidence. It is a knowing that cannot be taught, only remembered. And you are remembering now. Not just who you are, but who you have always been. You have always been the one, the chosen one, the appointed one, the capable one, the powerful one. You did not need to become that. You needed to remember that, and you remember through assumption, through acting as if, through living each moment, not in pursuit, but in possession. Everything you desire already belongs to you in the invisible. Every dream is already complete, every intention already fulfilled. All that remains is the journey of embodiment. And that journey begins now, not with effort, not with striving, but with a quiet, unwavering choice to be who you truly are. You do not reach for the stars, you remember that you are made of them. You do not chase greatness, you assume it. You wear it. You let it inform every gesture, every word, every breath. And as you do, the old world falls away, not in violence, not in struggle, but in quiet surrender to a greater truth. This is how you become what you've always been destined to be. Not by waiting, not by hoping, not by watching the clock, but by living now as if it were done, as if nothing were missing, as if the divine had already whispered yes, and all you had to do was agree. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight I invite you to consider something so simple yet so powerful that it shapes every corner of your world. I invite you to look within, not to the noise outside, not to circumstance or condition, but to the sacred theater of your imagination. For within that silent chamber lies the birthplace of every reality you have ever known. You may think the world happens to you, but I tell you, it happens through you. Every joy, every sorrow, every triumph, every defeat. It is not the hand of fate, but the hand of imagination, guided either blindly or with intention. The moment you accept this truth is the moment you hold the key to everything. What you imagine with God becomes real, not someday, not somewhere distant in time, but now in seed form. The outer world is only the harvest of thoughts, deeply felt, persistently held. Your imagination is divine. It is not a daydream, not mere fantasy. It is the very workshop of creation. And the power behind it, that still, small voice within, that which many call God. To imagine lovingly, to dwell in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, is to align yourself with divine law. When you feel as though your desire is already yours, when you walk, talk, and breathe as though it is done, you impress it upon the deeper mind, and what is impressed must be expressed. That is the law. You have imagined your way to this very moment. Every relationship, every opportunity, every challenge, you summoned them by what you believed and felt to be true, perhaps unknowingly, but the law does not require awareness to function, only feeling. If you feared it, you fed it. If you longed for it with certainty, you called it near. So I say to you, use your imagination as you would a sacred tool. Do not squander it on fear or doubt or revenge. Dare to believe in the beautiful, the noble, the good. Dwell in it until it feels natural, until it feels like home, and then release it not in desperation but in faith. For what you have conceived in feeling is already born in spirit. The world is clay, and your inner vision shapes it. But it is not just vision, it is vision fused with belief, soaked in emotion, wrapped in repetition. That is how mountains move. That is how doors open without keys. That is how the invisible becomes seen. So tonight ask yourself not merely what you want, but what you are willing to become in mind and spirit, because your world will always reflect the image you hold within. Choose wisely, imagine wisely, because what you imagine with God becomes real. What you imagine with God becomes real. This is not poetry, it is principle. It is the rhythm of life itself, quietly and faithfully playing in the background of every waking moment, waiting only for your conscious participation. You are not a passive observer in this world. You are not at the mercy of luck or fate or circumstance. You are the operant power. You are the chooser, and the choosing happens within. Each time you dare to imagine something greater, something finer, something more in line with the divine pattern of love and abundance, you are not merely hoping, you are creating. Feel the difference. Hope begs, imagination assumes. Hope waits, imagination lives in the end. Hope says, maybe one day. Imagination says, it is so now. And the world, like a faithful mirror, reflects the latter. You are not separate from the source of creation. It breathes in you, moves through you, expresses as you. When you sit quietly and close your eyes, when you dwell in the scene of your heart's desire fulfilled, you are not pretending. You are entering the realm from which all reality springs. The invisible realm, the eternal, the real. And the moment you feel it to be true, the moment you live in that imaginal act with conviction, you set in motion a law more powerful than anything the world can oppose. The outer world rearranges itself to match the inner state. This is not something you try to make happen with force. It is something you allow by remaining faithful to the assumption that it already is. Everything you now experience, you once imagined. Whether consciously or unconsciously, you lived in the feeling of it long enough for it to take root. And now you walk among the fruits of yesterday's inner garden. This is not to shame you, it is to empower you, because if you created what is, you can create what will be. It is never too late to change the script, and the script does not change by pleading or hustling or fighting against what you see. It changes by assuming the end and making that end so vivid, so real, so emotionally charged in your imagination that the world cannot help but catch up. You see, life is not reacting to your wishes, it is reflecting your assumptions. And assumptions, once embodied, harden into fact. So what are you assuming right now about yourself, about others, about what's possible? Are you living as though the future you want is already here, or are you waiting for proof before you believe? Because belief is the proof. Feeling is the secret. When you walk in the state of already being what you desire, when you move through your day with the confidence of someone who already has the thing they used to long for, you call it into being. It must come, not because of who you are in the world, but because of who you are in consciousness. The world bows to your inner conviction. This is not magic, it is law. And law does not play favorites. It doesn't care how long you've struggled or how many mistakes you've made. It only responds to your present inner state. So if you would change your life, don't wait for the world to change first. Go within. Change the feeling. Change the inner conversation. Change the movie playing in your mind, and stay there. Not for a minute, not for a moment of inspiration, but as a way of life. Live from the end, not toward it, from it. This is the greatest secret of manifestation. When you imagine with God, you are imagining from the source of all things. There is no lack there, no doubt, no delay, only the perfect fulfillment of your desire as if it were always true, as if it had never not been true. And when you feel that way long enough, consistently enough, lovingly enough, the world bends itself to make it visible. You don't need to tell others. You don't need to convince or explain. What you do in the silence of your soul is more powerful than anything you could say aloud. Withdraw from appearances. Ignore the evidence of the senses if it contradicts your aim. Let your faith in the unseen be greater than your fear of the seen, because what you sustain in imagination will become the seen. The world may say, be realistic, but I say to you, be imaginative, because what the world calls realistic is just what has already been made visible by imagination. It is old news. It is the echo of a former assumption. You are not here to live in echoes. You are here to sing the new song, to see what others do not yet see, to feel what the world has not yet caught up to know in your bones, in your breath, that what you imagine with God becomes fact. Take a moment, Think of a desire close to your heart. Not one you think is reasonable, not one you believe you should want, but one that sets your soul on fire, one that whispers to you in quiet hours, one that makes you feel alive. Now ask yourself, if it were true right now, how would I feel? How would I carry myself? How would I speak, move, breathe? What thoughts would fill my mind? What assumptions would I naturally hold? Now dare to dwell there, not just in fantasy, but in faith. Faith is not blind. Faith sees what the eyes cannot. Faith is the evidence of things not seen, the substance of things hoped for. Faith is imagination married to conviction. When you persist in that inner feeling, when you make it so real to you that the outer world becomes irrelevant, it must materialize. You don't chase it. You don't beg for it. You become it. And in becoming it, you draw all things necessary into your world. People, places, opportunities. They come as if by accident, but you'll know better. You'll know they are simply the visible bridge between your inner state and its outer reflection. This is how the meek inherit the earth, not through striving, but through stillness, through the quiet mastery of inner reality, through the wise use of imagination aligned with love. Because when you imagine lovingly for yourself, for others, you become a vessel for divine will. And divine will is always fullness, always peace, always joy. Guard your imagination then as you would a sacred flame. Don't lend it to fear or gossip or complaint. Don't let it drift aimlessly into worry or regret. Keep it anchored in the truth of what you want. And when old patterns try to drag you back, remind yourself, I am not my past. I am not my current condition. I am not even what others see. I am what I assume myself to be. And I assume now that I am blessed, that I am guided, that I am whole, that I am loved and loving, that what I desire is mine because I have made it real in imagination. And what is real in imagination is just as real, if not more so, than what is presently visible. It only waits for the right season to bloom. This is why patience is not passive. Patience is trust. It is knowing that the seed already planted will grow as long as you do not dig it up with doubt. It is knowing that your assumption, once fixed and felt, will attract every condition needed for its fulfillment. You don't have to know how, you only have to know that it will. Rest in that knowing. Let it calm your nerves. Let it quiet your questions. The same divine power that imagined galaxies into being lives in you. It does not fail. It does not forget. It does not withhold. It gives according to your assumption. It reflects what you dare to feel is already true. So I ask you, one more time, what are you imagining? Not just casually, but consistently. What inner state are you nurturing, feeding, repeating? Because that is what you will live. Not what you want, not what you hope, but what you believe yourself to be in the secret places of your soul. If you would change your world, change your inner speech. Speak to yourself as the person who already has what they once sought. Walk into rooms with the posture of someone who knows their worth. Act not in pretense, but in inner alignment with the truth of your fulfilled desire. Let your imagination outgrow your memory. Let it stretch beyond the facts of your current world. Let it become the vision of what can be and already is in spirit. And the world, though it may seem slow to catch on, will rise to meet you there. It always does. It always does, because it must. The world has no choice but to echo what you have fixed in consciousness. It is not a matter of time, but a matter of assumption. When you persist in the assumption long enough, time bends to it. Circumstance bends to it. People, even the ones who seem most unrelated to your dream, will play the exact roles needed to bring your desire to pass. Not because they intend to, but because they must. They are moved like actors on a stage. responding to the lines you have already written in the script of imagination. The deeper part of you, what some call the higher self, the God within, the I am, knows this truth already. It waits patiently for you to remember. Every time you return to imagination, to the state of the wish fulfilled, you are coming back home. You are returning to the source of all manifestation, the source of all reality. You are no longer looking to the world to tell you who you are telling the world who you are, and the world obeys. So you must make it a habit, a discipline, a way of life. The disciplined use of imagination is not restrictive, it is liberating. It frees you from reaction. It makes you the cause, not the effect. And when you live as the cause, nothing can shake you. Storms may come, but you know they are temporary. Delays may arise, but you know they are only illusions. Because you have seen the end, you have felt the end. And having assumed the end, it is yours. Do not mistake persistence in imagination for mere repetition. It is not about how many times you say the words or visualize the scene. It is about how deeply you feel the truth of it. One moment of deep, rich, vivid inner experience is more powerful than 1,000 hollow affirmations. To feel it real is to ignite the fire. And once lit, it must burn through every layer of resistance until the outer world reshapes itself to match your inner conviction. You see, the imagination is the creative power of God individualized in you. It is not a gift given to the fortunate. It is the essence of who you are. The world was imagined into being. All that is seen was once unseen. Everything man has made, from the smallest tool to the grandest monument, began in imagination. And yet we think nothing of wasting this power on worry, doubt, and limitation. We give it away to fear. We loan it to negative self-talk. And then we wonder why our lives mirror back to us chaos and lack. You were never meant to live by default. You were meant to live by design. And that design begins with what you accept as true in imagination. Whatever you would see expressed outwardly, you must first claim inwardly. Whatever you would hold in your hands, you must first hold in your mind. And not as a distant hope, but as a present fact. I am, not I will be. It is, not it could be. For all things are possible to the one who believes, not in mere possibilities, but in fulfilled facts. Let that be your compass, the feeling of the wish fulfilled. It is the one thing you must return to again and again. In quiet moments, in the midst of chaos, when things seem to fall apart and when everything goes right, return to that inner state. Let it become your dwelling place. Let it become your atmosphere. Because what you frequently imagine becomes your reality. Not through force, not through effort, but through spiritual law, which never fails. Many believe that imagining a better life is wishful thinking, but wishful thinking is unfocused, passive, and lacks faith. The imagination I speak of is active, deliberate, and fused with feeling. It does not wait, it declares. It does not hope, it assumes. It lives in the state of already having, already being, already doing, and that state draws to it the conditions that match it. No prayer goes unanswered. No sincere act of imagination is ever wasted. Every time you imagine lovingly, every time you feel a truth that contradicts the senses, you sow a seed. You may not see it grow immediately, but do not be fooled. Something has shifted. The world may look the same for a while, but behind the curtain, everything is changing. The stage is being set. The characters are being moved. The doors are being prepared to open. So persist. When the evidence says otherwise, persist. When doubt knocks, persist. Not with strain, but with confidence. Remind yourself that what you imagine with God becomes real, not by effort, but by law. If it is truly assumed, it must come to pass. If it is truly felt, it must find expression. Now understand this clearly. Imagination must be fused with belief to create. Mere mental images are not enough. It is belief that gives imagination its power. It is the feeling of certainty, the emotional conviction that impresses upon the deeper self. That is why imagining without feeling leads to frustration. You must feel the truth of it. You must dwell in it long enough for it to become familiar, natural, inevitable. Do not worry about how it will come. That is not your work. Your work is to assume the end and live in its feeling. Let the divine intelligence within take care of the means. It knows ways and connections far beyond your current understanding. When you interfere with the how, you often limit the miracle. So release the need to figure it out. Just feel it real and remain faithful. Some may ask, but what if I fail? What if I imagine and nothing changes? To that I say, you can never truly fail if you persist. Failure only comes when you stop imagining, when you give up the vision, when you abandon the assumption. The moment you pick it up again with renewed faith, the process continues. Your only task is to return to the state of the wish fulfilled, over and over, lovingly, confidently, joyfully. Even in the midst of the opposite, you can hold to the vision. That is true mastery. Anyone can believe when the evidence is there, but to believe in spite of what you see, that is divine power, that is creation. That is the mark of someone who knows their union with the source. Every great change in your life will begin first in imagination. There is no exception. Whether it is healing, abundance, love, purpose, peace, it begins as an inner experience. So make your inner world rich. Fill it with beauty, with faith, with confidence in the good. Make your inner conversations kind and bold. Speak to yourself as you would if you already had all you desired. Think thoughts of success, of peace, of fulfillment, not because you're trying to trick the world, but because you're shaping it. If you only knew how powerful you truly are, you would never again imagine anything you do not wish to experience. You would never again speak carelessly about yourself or your circumstances. You would never again accept limitation as truth. You would guard your inner world with holy reverence, because you would understand the imagination is not just creative, it is divine, and its partner is God. What you imagine with God becomes real. Not maybe, not someday, it becomes real. The moment you feel it real, it becomes part of you. And what is part of you must find expression. So feel it now, love it now, be it now, and let the world catch up. Your life is clay, and your imagination is the sculptor. There are no limits but those you accept. There are no delays but those you entertain. Every moment is a new chance to claim a new reality. Every second a doorway into a new world. Enter it boldly, enter it lovingly, and live from it, not toward it. Because when you do, when you really do, the world will change, and you will know, not by theory but by experience, that what you imagined with God has become real. The most sacred thing you possess is your ability to imagine, for it is there that God speaks in first person. It is not outside you, not in some distant place above the sky, but right where you are, thinking as you, dreaming as you, believing as you. When you say, I am, you are invoking the name of God. Whatever you place after those two words, you call into being. If you say, I am poor, you are not describing a condition, you are declaring a truth. If you say, I am loved, you are not merely expressing a wish, you are shaping a reality. So watch yourself. Listen closely to your inner conversations. They matter more than any outer action. They matter more than what anyone else says about you, more than your job title, your bank balance, your relationships. What you whisper to yourself when no one is watching, that is the seed of your world. The quietest assumption held with feeling will eventually outpicture itself, even if the world around you insists otherwise. Do you want to know where your future is heading? Don't look to a psychic. Look to what you consistently feel to be true in your imagination. What scenes do you replay before sleep? What do you assume when you're walking through your day? Do you live in expectation or dread, in confidence or doubt? You cannot plant the seed of fear and reap the fruit of joy. You cannot water a garden of limitation and expect abundance. You must begin where it all begins, with feeling, with belief, with imagination. And the most powerful use of imagination is not to escape reality, but to create it. When you imagine, not for fantasy's sake, but with intention, when you fuse your desire with feeling, faith, and repetition, you are entering the realm of miracles, not by chance, but by law. And this law will never fail you, not once, if you remain faithful to the inner state. You must claim it boldly, not timidly, not halfway, boldly. You must say, this is who I am, this is what I have, this is what is mine, even if the world tells you the opposite, especially if the world tells you the opposite. That is the moment you choose. Will I believe the seen or the unseen? Will I side with fear or with faith? Will I remain loyal to my senses or to the deeper knowing within me? What you imagine with God becomes real, because God operates in you through your assumption, not through the begging of your lips, but through the certainty of your soul. When you feel yourself into a new state, a new identity, and you refuse to leave it, the world must conform. It may take days, weeks, or months, but it must come, not because you forced it, but because you aligned with it. You are always creating. This is not something that turns off and on. Whether in joy or worry, in hope or doubt, you are constantly imagining. The question is not if you are creating, but what you are creating. And you will know what you have created by the life you live today. But do not be discouraged. For just as you once imagined your way into limitation, you can now imagine your way into freedom. You can revise the past, heal the present, and shape the future, all from the center of your being. There is no power outside of you greater than the power within. You may feel small, but you are not. You may feel forgotten, but you are not. You may feel broken, but in truth you are whole. For you are made in the image of the Creator, not in form, but in function. The function to create. And that function is imagination. Let it become sacred to you. Protect it. Nourish it. Don't throw it away on worry and fear, on what-ifs and worst-case scenarios. Use it for what it was given. To dream wisely, to envision boldly, to feel into a new life, until that new life becomes so familiar, so alive, so real within you, that the outer world must obey. You will begin to notice subtle changes first. You will feel lighter, more at ease. You will begin to carry yourself differently. You will stop reacting to the world and begin responding from a place of power. People will notice something in you, something calm, grounded, magnetic. They won't know what it is, but you will. You'll know that you've tapped into the source, that you've begun to create from the inside out. Do not let others distract you with their opinions or their doubts. Most people live as though imagination is childish, naive, even foolish. But that's only because they've forgotten what they once knew as children, that everything real was once unreal, that the invisible precedes the visible, that the dream comes before the doing. And if you are to reclaim your power, you must remember what they have forgotten. You must remember that you are not here to live life as it is, but as it could be, as it should be, according to the divine vision you hold in your soul. This is not denial, this is creation. This is not escapism, this is transformation. You are not ignoring facts, you are overriding them with truth. And truth is not what is seen. Truth is what is felt, claimed, and lived within, until the seen is remade in its image. If you could only hold one belief in this life, let it be this, that imagination and God are one, that what you dare to believe with love and conviction becomes real, not always on your timeline, not always in the way you expect, but always in perfect alignment with your assumption. The world will surprise you, not because it is random, but because it is obedient. It listens not to your words, but to your feeling, not to your logic, but to your state. So check your state, do it often, not with judgment, but with curiosity. Ask yourself, what am I assuming right now? Am I assuming lack or abundance? Am I assuming love or loneliness? Am I assuming ease or struggle? Whatever you're assuming, you are aligning with. Whatever you're aligning with, you are creating. And the beautiful thing is this, your power lies in the present, not in what happened yesterday, not in what might come tomorrow, but in what you are feeling and believing now. This moment is the birthplace of all that will come. So bless it, use it, shape it, claim in this moment what you desire, and do not waver. Feel the end. See yourself already there, not as a distant hope, but as a present reality. Feel the relief, the joy, the confidence of already having it. Hear the words of congratulations. See the proof on paper, the smile on a loved one's face, the doors that were once shut swinging open. Breathe it in, let it move through your body, and then go about your day not as someone hoping, but as someone who knows. You'll find yourself walking taller. You'll notice that decisions come easier, that opportunities begin to appear without effort, that life begins to echo your inner world more quickly, and each time it does, you will trust even more. You will stop needing signs, because your conviction will become the sign. You will stop needing evidence, because your assumption will carry more weight than circumstance. And then the miracle will appear quietly, naturally, as though it had always been so. And you smile, not because you're surprised, but because you knew, because you felt it, because you lived it in imagination before it came to pass. That's the moment everything changes. Not when the outer world shifts, but when the inner world becomes unshakable. You were born to imagine wisely. You were born to live from vision, not reaction. You were born to remember that the unseen is more real than the seen, that the seed is the promise, that your imagination, united with divine intelligence, is the most creative force on earth. So choose this moment to begin anew, not by changing what's outside, but by changing what's within. Assume the best. Feel the truth of your desire already fulfilled. Live in the end again and again until it feels like home. And then watch, not with anxiety, but with quiet assurance, as the world transforms to meet you there. Because it will. It always will. Because it always will. You are not waiting for the world is waiting for you to assume the posture of the one who already is, already has, already knows. You do not need permission to imagine boldly. You do not need anyone's agreement or approval to claim what is yours in spirit. For the spirit within you is complete, whole, lacking nothing. And when you imagine from that place, the world bows in response. Everything is responding to you, though you may have thought otherwise. Perhaps you believed that you had to beg, work harder, or suffer longer to deserve what you wanted. But the truth is, deserving has nothing to do with it. It is not about effort, but alignment. You receive not because you have earned, but because you have assumed. You get what you accept as true for yourself, not what you think you're worthy of in theory, but what you feel to be natural. And what feels natural now is the greatest clue to what you'll see next. This is why change doesn't come by chance, but by choice. By choosing again and again to inhabit a new feeling, a new assumption, until it becomes second nature. When you feel wealthy, you attract the forms that reflect it. When you feel loved, love appears. When you feel successful, success meets you. The outer must reflect the inner. It's not a maybe, it's a must. But you cannot trick the law. You cannot fake the feeling with empty affirmations while deep down clinging to fear. You must believe it. And belief is not found in your head. It is found in your heart, in your body, in your mood, in the quality of your thoughts and actions. If you believe you are the one who has it, you act like it, think like it, feel like it, even if no one else can see it yet. And soon they will. You may not know how it will come. It may come in ways that surprise you. That's not your concern. Your concern is the state, the invisible root, not the visible branch. You don't need to predict the steps. You just need to walk in the feeling of the end. The how belongs to the divine. It is your trust that opens the way. And let me remind you again, you are not imagining alone. You are not wishing from a place of emptiness. When you imagine, you are communing with the highest intelligence there is. The God power in you does not speak in words. It speaks in vision, in feeling, in knowing. And when you align with that frequency, when you surrender to that inner certainty, creation becomes effortless. It becomes natural. It becomes inevitable. Do not worry if you can't see the full picture yet. The seed does not need to see the tree to grow. It simply unfolds according to the pattern placed within it. And your desire, your true, burning, unshakable desire, is that pattern. It was placed within you for a reason, not to torment you, not to taunt you, but to call you into creation, to awaken your sleeping power, to remind you that you are here to shape life, not to be shaped by it. Most people sleep through life, reacting, surviving, doing what they're told. But you are being called to awaken. You are being called to imagine consciously, deliberately, wisely, not to wait for the world to show you who you are, but to show the world what is possible through a being who dares to feel it real. It doesn't matter how many times you've failed. It doesn't matter how long you've waited. The moment you assume the new state and persist in it, your past becomes irrelevant. The past is not a sentence, it is a shadow. And it cannot hold you when you step into the light of a new assumption. Stop telling the story of what went wrong. Start telling the story of what is right now in imagination. That is the only place transformation begins. You are not here to fix the world. You are here to fix your vision of it. And as you change your vision, the world changes with it. Relationships shift, finances shift, health shifts. It all begins within. When you begin to see others through the lens of love and wholeness, they begin to mirror that. When you refuse to give energy to lack, lack begins to fade. When you stop expecting disappointment, life stops disappointing you. Expectation is powerful. It is imagination in motion. What you expect, you attract. What you anticipate, you invite. So expect joy, expect breakthroughs, expect miracles, not out of arrogance, but out of alignment. Expect them because you have already seen them in your mind, already felt them in your heart, already accepted them as done. That is not delusion, it is faith. Faith is not hoping that something might happen. Faith is knowing it already has. Faith is standing in the middle of a storm and saying, I am safe. Faith is looking at a bank account with zeros and saying, I am abundant. Faith is waking up to the same routine and saying something new and wonderful is happening now. Faith speaks from the end, and imagination is its voice. When you combine imagination and faith, you become unstoppable, not because you control the world, but because you command the inner world. And the inner world is the cause of all things. This is the law. You cannot escape it, only use it. So why not use it with love? Why not imagine the best for yourself and for others? Why not dwell in the feeling of answered prayer? Every great life, every invention, every revolution, every transformation started in the unseen. Someone somewhere dared to imagine differently, dared to believe beyond what their eyes could see, and so they rose. Not because they were chosen, but because they chose to believe in a world not yet visible, chose to honor the vision more than the facts, chose to live as if it were true, and in doing so made it true. You are no different. You have the same power, the same faculty, the same divine inheritance. But it requires courage, it requires persistence, it requires being so loyal to the inner reality that no outer condition can break your faith. Even if you stumble, even if you doubt, return. Return to the feeling, return to the vision, return to the end. It is always there for you. It is waiting for your yes. And when you give it your yes, when you imagine, not as a beggar, but as a co-creator, you step into a rhythm that cannot fail. You begin to live not by effort, but by flow. Life begins to meet you with grace. You stop chasing and start attracting. You stop forcing and start allowing. And the things that once seemed far away begin to come closer, not because the world changed, but because you did. You may not notice the shift at first. It may be subtle. A new idea, a sudden opportunity, a different way of seeing someone, a lightness in your step. But it builds and it grows until suddenly you look around and realize, this is the life I once imagined. And then you'll smile, not because you're surprised, but because you remember. You remember the nights you spent imagining in silence. You remember the mornings you felt it real before the day began. You remember the decision you made to no longer live by sight, but by vision. And that memory will become the foundation of your faith, the proof that what you imagine with God becomes real. Always. It is not superstition, it is not luck, it is not wishful thinking, it is law, and you are the living proof of it. So let this moment be your turning point. Let this breath be your new beginning. Do not wait for the world to give you permission. Do not wait for the evidence to believe. Believe now, imagine now, feel it now, live it now. And watch with quiet joy as the invisible becomes visible, the hoped for becomes fact, and your imagined reality becomes the only one you know. Because this is how reality bends, not to force, not to desperation, not to struggle, but to assumption fused with feeling held steadily within. Reality bends to the one who knows, not the one who hopes. It bends to the inner atmosphere that says, without question, it is already done. And this knowing does not come from evidence, it comes from conviction. And conviction is born in imagination, then nourished through repetition and finally embodied as your natural state. You do not have to prove anything to anyone. The only proof required is within, if you can feel it to be true, so deeply that it becomes your mood, your tone, your identity, the world will confirm it. That is not arrogance. That is alignment. You are not trying to create something outside of yourself. You are revealing by the light of your imagination what is already yours in the invisible. This is the truth most forget. They chase, hustle, and grind, thinking the outer world is where the treasure lies. But the treasure is within. It always was. When you imagine something and claim it with your full being, the outer world becomes a servant of that vision. People, opportunities, events, they rearrange themselves to fulfill what you have already accepted. And so you must be careful not to use this divine gift against yourself. Don't rehearse fears and call it being realistic. Don't dwell on what went wrong and call it processing. Don't return again and again to thoughts of lack, unworthiness, rejection, and think you are simply being cautious. You are planting seeds. You are writing upon the subconscious that this is who you are, and the subconscious will always bring it forth. This is why imagination is not child's play. It is divine play. The most serious work you will ever do is in silence, behind closed eyes, when no one is watching and no one applauds. That is where life is changed. That is where miracles are born, not in noise, not in public, but in stillness. When you dare to assume that your inner world is more real than the outer, and that feeling is more powerful than fact. You do not have to fight the old, you only need to imagine the new. You don't have to resist what is, you only need to surrender to what could be, and feel it now as what is. It is so simple, and yet so profound. You do not overcome darkness by analyzing it. You overcome it by turning on the light. And the light is imagination, guided by love, anchored by faith, sustained by persistence. Some will tell you that your dreams are too big, that you need to be practical, that you should settle. Smile at them. Forgive them. They are simply reflecting the limits they have accepted for themselves. But you must walk a different path. You must live not according to what is, but according to what could be. You must be willing to look like a fool to the world in order to be faithful to the unseen. For what the world calls delusion, God calls faith. And what the world calls fantasy, the wise know to be creation in its earliest form. Do not let their unbelief shake your inner vision. Hold to it, protect it, water it with love and feeling. Speak of it not to everyone but to yourself constantly. Let it be your companion in solitude. Let it be your compass in uncertainty. Every great leap in your life will require this quiet defiance of appearances. You will have to say, even in the midst of contradiction, I know who I am. I know what is mine. I know what I have imagined. And when the outer world shouts no, you must whisper yes, and feel that yes in your bones. That is power. That is mastery. That is living from within. And from that place you will begin to see the strange and beautiful unfolding of reality. Synchronicities will appear, things will work out coincidentally. What seemed delayed for years will manifest suddenly, not because you forced it, but because you finally believed it. And belief is the true magnet. Belief is the womb of manifestation. Understand that the law does not work with emotionless logic. It works with feeling. You can think 1,000 thoughts a day, but it is the one you feel that becomes flesh. It is not the words of your affirmations, but the emotional charge behind them that matters. If you say, I am wealthy and feel poor, the feeling wins. But if you say, I am abundant and feel rich, even for a moment, that moment is enough to plant the seed. So learn to live in the feeling. That is your real work, not to change the outer, but to change the inner atmosphere so fully that the outer must conform. It is not about effort, it is about inner consent. Do you agree with the version of yourself that already has the life you want? If not, you must begin to. You must speak as that version, feel as that version, act as that version. Quietly, humbly, consistently, even when no one notices, even when no one claps, especially then, because the world sees what is. But the awakened imagination sees what will be, and it holds to that vision with tenderness and strength until it becomes what is. It is not enough to imagine once. You must return again and again to the scene, to the feeling, to the state, until it becomes familiar, natural, automatic, until you no longer try to believe, because you simply do. That is the goal. To become so saturated in the assumption that you no longer have to remember it, it becomes who you are. And who you are will always determine what you experience. Let no one steal your vision. Let no voice, however loud, cause you to doubt what you have seen in the silence of your soul. You do not need evidence to begin. You only need imagination and faith. You do not need to know every step. You only need to know the end. Live from that end, speak from it, think from it, and let the steps reveal themselves one by one as you walk. This is the greatest power you possess. Not your skills, not your knowledge, but your inner state. That is what you take into every room, every opportunity, every encounter. And that is what life responds to. You may fool others with words, you may dress up lack in confidence, but life does not respond to what you say, it responds to what you are in consciousness. You cannot fake your state, but you can change it. And to change it, you do not need to travel or spend or earn or wait. You need only to sit, breathe, and feel, to close your eyes and enter the state of the fulfilled desire, to dwell there, to live there, to think from it until it is no longer a practice, but a natural way of being. That is where transformation begins, not in the world, but in you. And when it begins in you, it is inevitable that it will express itself. The law demands it. Your only task is to persist, not forcefully, but faithfully. Persist in the inner knowing, in the chosen mood, in the assumption that all is well and becoming better. And as you do, the world will begin to echo back your belief, your vision, your truth. You will walk into rooms and feel the shift. You will speak and your words will carry weight. You will live, not in reaction, but in creation. And all because you remembered what others forgot. That imagination, when united with divine feeling, becomes reality. Always. So I leave you with this. The power is within you. It always has been. You are not waiting for permission, not waiting for the world to catch up, not hoping for luck or chance. You are the dreamer, the imagineer, the silent creator of your world. What you dare to assume as true, what you feel deeply and live from consistently, must be made visible. It is law, not luck. And when you imagine with God, boldly, lovingly, faithfully, you do not just shape your own reality. You awaken others to the truth that they can shape theirs too. Use this gift wisely. Imagine well and live from the end, because what you imagine with God becomes real.